Hello and welcome to another Dorset and Guernsey area video. Today my inspiration is, well, environmentally friendly. It came from a workshop that my niece and I did last Christmas with Jo Richards at the Bournemouth Academy. And she showed us this way of using moss and chicken wire, going back to the mechanics we used to use. I've got this nice sort of window box style basket which I found in my shed. I hadn't used before, so I thought we would use that, and it's rather nice and rustic. So we're going to do a sort of freestyle design with it. And inside I've got what Steve calls my Swiss roll, and it's made up of a piece of chicken wire which is slightly wider than my container, and that gives me some to fold down the sides. And it was as long as I wanted to make the circumference. So I then tied together the open edge, stuffed it with moss, and that's the sort of moss you use for wreath making, and then folded down the sides. Be careful, because obviously there are rather sharp ends to it, so you want to be very careful, try and push those in. Don't leave too much width to fold down, because you don't want too many layers of chicken wire to have to work through. I've then taken a plastic tray, and I know that's not very environmentally friendly, but it is reusable. And I've cable tied through the chicken wire onto there, because that will give me a reservoir when I need to water it. And you do need to keep this nice and moist. In here I wanted to raise it up, so I've put a couple of cardboard trays that mushrooms come in with my vegetable box that I get each week. So that just raises it up so I can work this way. So that's the idea. So as I say, it's going to be fairly freestyle today, and again, it's all material from my garden. So we have been pruning quite a lot. It's now early July. You probably won't see this video till much later in the summer, but we have been pruning. So this was one of the things we cut down, was our mahonia, and I thought this was a lovely shape, so I thought we'd use this. I've made the stems quite clean, quite a long way down, because you are going to be pushing it into the moss. So you want a reasonable amount to go into the moss. Now this moss actually is the same moss that we used when we went to the workshop, and that was just before Christmas. So that, if you keep it moist, it will survive that long. So I think that's also rather good. This is an interesting fern. This is another of the things down near our pond. I thought it had come back from Chelsea and that I bought it from Chelsea, but I'm not sure if it has. I can't find it on the plant list, so I'm not sure that it is. But it's just slightly crinkly, and I thought that was another slightly different form and texture to use in here, so thought that was rather nice. But you can see, the more you put into these arrangements, the firmer it all gets, so it's quite nice because you can stuff lots of things on. Rubus from the garden, trails beautifully, lovely for pedestals, has this lovely leaf which is really holds up really well, slightly leathery, and a really interesting stem, furry, slightly red, and you can see it's having some fruits. So a very nice one to have around. I think once you've got it, it tends to stay. It's quite robust, I think. If you've got a bank that you want to cover with something, it's really good for that. A couple more bits of that. So we want to, I'm obviously making it slightly wider at the sides, and I'm going to make it a little bit narrower here, so that it was, when we did it at Christmas, it was a table decoration. If you're lucky, Steve might put a photo of that on the video as well to show you. It was very big, and my niece got carried away with it, and hers was even bigger than mine, and took up most of her dining table, I think. I think her husband was a little bit alarmed when he saw it. But it was a lovely day for us. We both really enjoyed having a bit of a break from the Christmas activities, getting ready for Christmas, and I went and just spent a morning playing with flowers, and it was lovely. It was a super day. Really nice for us to be able to share that. This is Wigelia, and this is the limey green one. Now when I did my last video, I thought I hadn't got much that was really sort of yellowy green, but I actually, we've just cut this down, and I thought, oh well, that should have been in the last video, but anyhow, I kept some for this one. But it's rather a nice limey colour. We are going to find another shrub to go in that's got some nice yellowy foliage. So you can see, you just keep, I wouldn't say ramming it in, but you do have to be a bit firm with it, but it works really, really well. I don't know if I'll be confident enough to turn it upside down at the end, but I know that you can do at times. When I was taught to do a funeral design, our teacher made us turn them upside down to make sure that they didn't all fall apart, which was a bit nerve-wracking. Choisia tonata. This is the one, you either love it or hate it. Smell isn't great, but it is a useful one, and it does give you that lovely rosette that you know, you can use instead of a flower, really, because it's such a beautiful shape. So even if you don't like it, I think I don't think it smells too bad. But I know a lot of people think it smells like cats. Oh, there's one more piece. Yeah, it a little bit of blight on it, I think, at the moment. I'm not sure what that is, but hopefully it'll be all right. Again, it's getting a bit out of hand, needs pruning. So it's been quite good doing these videos, because it means I've actually been pruning my flowers, my plants, which, you know, with no flower clubs at the moment, that would be a bit difficult. But I'm not very good at just doing flowers in the house. No, that's not in the right place. Sometimes you just have to work it through, because it doesn't want to quite go where you want it. So it's very much the same both sides. I'll just fill in a little bit at the back here, but I wouldn't say it's not got one side to it. Hopefully it will work all the way around. We've also got in here some Fatsia leaves, the standard Fatsia japonica. It's doing quite nicely at the moment, growing away, so I thought we could give us another form, a larger form this time. We'll put some of those in. They're looking quite nice at the moment. I think they're just getting to that point where they're not so young, so they sometimes you have to wiggle them in a bit. That's it, it's gone in. You can feel it suddenly take hold. That's not taken, that piece. That one's broken. I've pushed it too far. Of course, these, you know, these are good because they cover up some of the mechanics. I've just got 4 of those, so I'll just pop those in. Right, what else is in my box? This is Viburnum tinus. Again, we've been pruning that because, you know, it's spring flowers, so it's had a good prune. Could do with a bit more, I have to say. It's always growing. We cut it down quite regularly, but fortunately it's one of those that, oh, it's got holes in it, that piece. That's not so good. So is this one my new? Oh dear, they've got holes in them. Anyhow, we'll try and use some of the bits that haven't. Some aphids after these, obviously, but we'll just fill in with a bit of this. It's a lovely one, it's got that nice red stem on it. Has a little white flower in the winter, which is nice to see. So I'm gradually filling, I'm sort of working from the outside and I'm gradually filling in. I think it's going to take quite a lot of foliage, this one. But I thought I'll put all the foliage in first. I think it's safer. And then the flowers just go in at the end. So yeah, I've got plenty of foliage. A bit more of the I had a good cut at the viburnum. It's getting very tall, but they do respond to quite harsh pruning, so that's quite good. I can see why demonstrators get through so much foliage now and why they want foliage in their gardens. You need it for doing these dens. We've just had a short break in filming, and whilst we were having a break, I actually filled a little bit more because there's quite a lot to go in. I've just put in this variegated privet and also some ordinary tree ivy just to fill in the centre there. And now I'm going to put in some Alchemilla mollis for you. The privet was something that came from my mum and dad. They'd had it growing in a pot by the back door, and it had never really taken off. The leaves were very small when they grew, a bit like a bonsai, I suppose. Anyhow, Dad said, did we want it? So we took it out of the pot and popped it in the ground, and wow, it's just taken off. It's another of those things that's so tall I can't get to the top of it. So I think that'll be getting a haircut quite soon. So the Alchemilla mollis is going in, and it's a lovely limey green, so really brightens up the design. Oh. I can push something out. So we're getting a nice shape to it, not too high because I don't know where it's going to go, probably on the windowsill, but if you did it in a lower dish it would be more like a table arrangement, so you wouldn't want it to be too high. the nigella has gone over now, but there's these beautiful seed pods. So I thought they were rather nice, a different form, a completely different texture again, so it's rather nice to have those. I've already put one or two of those in somewhere else. I've got Hypericum, and the berries are still quite nice and red. They do go horribly black at some point, so then I don't find them very attractive, but I thought, well, this was quite a nice addition. Pop those in again, a different form, giving us some contrast in there. Just pop some in the side. A little bit of depth in there, put them in quite low down, just so the eye goes into the arrangement a bit more. What else have I got in here? I've got some feverfew seeds widely in our garden. Again, it's one of those things that Steve thinks gets a little out of hand. I rather like it. It's certainly brightening up the garden at the moment. But you can see the more I put in this arrangement, the sort of firmer it becomes. And I think you can size it to whatever size you want by varying the size of the Swiss roll. This is a nice, open flower. Nice umbrals of pretty flowers that I thought gave it a nice open feel. As I say, it's very freestyle. There's no, well, there is design to it, but it's not very structured. Yeah, we were quite lucky. Mum and Dad bought a show house. And so the garden had been planted, but planted with lots of shrubs. And we had one or two. They had big berberis in, big beds of them. And they obviously didn't want those. So they cut them down, and we brought them down to Dorset. And they've actually done really well. Again, a lovely purple leafed one, which was rather nice. Right, now this time of year we're walking, and the fields, the cornfields, are just beginning to turn. They've been very green, and we've been watching them develop, and now they're just going to turn. And I suspect by the time you see this video, they'll have harvested. But I thought we'd put some wheat in here because it's very, very country, and I've taped all the stems together because I don't want them just getting wet in the moss and then just falling apart. So I've just taped them a bit. So just tuck those in. And then I've also got a little bit of barley as well that I did the same thing with. If I've got a short one, I don't want anything too long in there. Just something through here. Just hold on to the container so I don't push it all out the other side. Just slightly shorter, I think. Now I've got barley all over the carpet. It will be all right. I thought this container actually would be quite nice with a sort of coastal, seaside design in it. It would actually go very well with that. So now I'm going to put some flowers in, and this is a rose that I share with my next door neighbour because it comes over the fence from her garden. But it is lovely, and it's absolutely covering everything at the moment on the fence. But I thought it was rather, as you can see, it's absolutely full of flowers. couple round there, and a couple more around this side. They have a nice drape to them. And they do last. I've got some in a vase, and they actually, she came around for coffee and brought me some. And they've actually lasted quite well in water. I'm hoping that they'll last in here. What you have to do with this, I found, was to take it out in the garden and absolutely drench it. So I put it on the lawn and threw a bucket of water over it, basically, because you need to keep that moss really damp. And then I cut you some of my clematis. This is clematis Madame Julia Corrivon, and it's in absolutely full flower. I haven't used clematis. I've bought clematis from the wholesaler before and used it, but I've never used any from the garden. And it reminds me of when we went to the World Flower Show, because the Japanese girls were using lots of it, but we found that they were having to replace it practically every day, that we noticed they were in doing replacements. So I will tell you sometime when I next see you how it actually fared. But isn't it, I thought it just really brightened it up. So we're nearly there. One more piece of rose that we'll pop in. Poppy seed heads, which again a lovely different form, and they're beautiful green colour at the moment, so we'll just pop a few of those in. And then the final are my beautiful poppies. They're growing so well in the garden at the moment. And although I've got lots of seed heads at the moment, they're actually every day there are fresh ones. So it's giving me a lot of pleasure. It's a beautiful colour. I think I stole these seeds from a pub gardens. We were there with friends last year, and there were these beautiful poppies, and we stopped, and I just took one seed head just to see if I could grow them. And well, I think it's them because I've got quite a few of them, so I'm hoping that I have got the right one. That one's just losing its head. We might put one coming out a bit further. Put one in there, lower down. There, and I've got one gap in the middle, so I just need to a little bit of foliage just to cover it up. And I think that's our arrangement complete. So a real summer basket. Although it's early summer, it's July, and I hope you enjoyed watching me design that, and hopefully you'll join us for more videos which we hope to give you in the coming weeks. Thank you for watching. Hello again. This is a postscript regarding the mechanics for this design. having lived with it for a couple of days in the fireplace, I wasn't happy with how the plant material, although well conditioned, was holding up. So I decided that perhaps we needed to revise the mechanics. So I was just going to show you the way that I've done that. Before I had my Swiss roll, or my moss, which is in chicken wire, I just had it taped to a shallow dish. I decided that although I could water this whole thing, it actually was better if it was sitting in water. So I took it off the shallow dish, and I've now found a container that has a reservoir. So I can keep this filled up with water. It's still sat beautifully on my basket, and with the design it didn't show at all. But just to show you how to use this, because the best thing is if you can get the plant stalks down into the water, that makes it even better. So if you just leave them relatively long, and when you put them in, just try and get them down into that water, or as close. It's stayed really damp quite a long way up because it's sitting in the water. But obviously, particularly things that you're a little bit worried about, maybe a little bit tender, like my clematis, they would be better if their stems were down in the water, and I tried that out and it worked. So just a couple of tips there of how to make this slightly longer lasting. Hope that's helpful.